Meanwhile, Section 144 imposed in Mandur hardly seemed to matter as hundreds of residents came together in their fight for clean air and water.
5 ತಿಂಗಳು ಟೈಮ್ ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಜಗದೀಶ್ ಶೆಟ್ಟರ್ ಅವರೇ ನಮಗೆ ಬರ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು. 1 ವರ್ಷ ಮಾತ್ರ ಹಾಕ್ತಿವಿ, ನಮಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂತೀವಿ, ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಅದು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಆಶ್ವಾಸನೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು. ಇವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಏನ್ ಗ್ಯಾರಂಟಿ? ಬೇರೆ ಊರಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಕಸ ಎತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಫೋನ್ ಬಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿ ಕಸ ಎತ್ತಾಕ್ತಾರೆ ಹೊರತು ನಮ್ಮ ಮಂಡೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಕಸ ಎತ್ತಾಗೋದಲ್ಲ. ವಾಸನೆ ನಮಗೆ ಕುಡಿಯಕ್ಕೆ ನೀರ್ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ವಾಸನೆ ಕುಡಿಯೋಣ ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಗಾಳಿ ತಗೊಂಡ ಫ್ರೆಶ್ ಆಗಿರೋ ಗಾಳಿ ಅದು ಬರ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನಮಗೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಇವ್ರು ಕಸ ಯಾವಾಗ ಎತ್ತಾರೆ? ಇನ್ನೂ ತಂದು ಹಾಕ್ತಿವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇನ್ನು ಕಸ ಯಾವಾಗ ಎತ್ತಾರೆ?
ಆ 3 ತಿಂಗಳ ಸಮಯ ಕೊಡೋದು 5 ತಿಂಗಳ ಸಮಯ ಕೊಡೋದು ಮುಖ್ಯವಲ್ಲ. ನೀವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ 5 ತಿಂಗಳಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಇದನ್ನ ಸರಿ ಮಾಡೋಕೆ? ನಿಮ್ಮ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಏನು? ನೀವು ಹಿಂದೇನೂ 2 ಸರ್ತಿ ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ, ಈಗಲೂ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮಾತನ್ನು ನಂಬಿಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗತ್ತಾ? ಆದ್ರಿಂದ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಏನು?
In an attempt to highlight their plight, 8 people chose to go on an indefinite hunger strike. The strike, which began yesterday, resulted in one of the protesters falling ill. An ambulance was called to take her to the hospital to KR Puram. Freedom fighter Doreswamy, who was present at the protest yet again, voiced his concerns.
ನಾವು ಉಪವಾಸ ಮಾಡೋದು ತಪ್ಪಲ್ಲ. ಉಪವಾಸ ಮಾಡೋದು ಕೂಡ ಅವರ ಗಮನಕ್ಕೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದರಿಂದ ಅದರದ್ದು ಪರಿಣಾಮಕಾರಿ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ನಾ ಹೇಳೋಲ್ಲ. ಆದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಹ ಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಈ ವಿಷಗಾಳಿ ಕುಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು, ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ರೆಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಪವರೇ ಕಡಿಮೆ. ಅಂಥದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಇಷ್ಟು 3 ದಿವಸ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಬಹಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ವಿಚಾರ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಅದು ಯಾಕೆ ಇದರಿಂದ ಯಾಕೆ ಆಗಬೇಕು?
Doreswamy advised them against risking their lives, especially in the unhygienic conditions of Mandur. Upalokayukta Justice Majjige too visited the spot when he heard of the hunger strike. Stating that they have taken cognizance of the matter, Majjige added that a report on the progress of work will be given in the next 10 days. While the situation should have been brought under control when the protests broke out, the Chief Minister has questioned why the authorities have failed to come up with a proper solution to the mounting garbage crisis. Meanwhile, the people of Mandur are continuing with their protests until they see an evident change. Manjegada with Suresh for News9, Bengaluru.
Well, the Supreme Court today rejected the Cricket Association of Bihar's plea, and this has paved the way for N. Srinivasan to become the first chairman of the ICC. Here's a report.
The Supreme Court refused to give an urgent hearing on a plea to restrain N. Srinivasan from taking up the post of chairman of ICC Executive Board. A bench headed by Justice Vikramjit Sen said that there is no urgency for hearing the case and it will be taken up after the vacation. Srinivasan is set to become the first chairman of ICC in June-July. The international body has undergone changes in governance and revenue share model among its members. The changes were inspired by BCCI and supported by cricket boards of England and Australia. The Cricket Association of Bihar has been fighting a tooth and nail battle to stop Srinivasan from representing BCCI at the ICC. But the Supreme Court, which took away Srinivasan's powers as BCCI president in the wake of the IPL scandal, has so far refused to stop the Tamil Nadu strongman from assuming the ICC hot seat. Earlier, Srinivasan had moved the court seeking modification of earlier orders to enable him to function as BCCI president for non-IPL cricketing activities. The plea was turned down. The court had said that it could not modify the orders passed by another bench and asked Srinivasan to approach the bench which had delivered the verdict. Srinivasan is serving his last term as BCCI president. A new management is expected after September's annual general meeting. Sports Bureau, News9.
Moving on, the ongoing conflict in Iraq could spell trouble for India in the near future, and here's how.
$116 per barrel by year-end. The ongoing conflict in Iraq could disrupt oil output from the second biggest crude producer in OPEC in the coming days. The international benchmark hit an all-time high of $113 on June 13. Trade experts from around the world have opined that the coming days will see a severe shortage of crude oil supply since ISIL has halted repair works of pipeline from the Kirkuk oil field to the Ceyhan port in Turkey. Insurgents planning to move south. Already having taken control of Mosul and Tikrit, the insurgents are now planning to head south and take control of Baghdad. Global analysts say that once this happens, crude oil supply from Iraq could cease completely. Repercussions in India. India depends on import for more than 2/3 of its crude oil supply. Sharp increase in global price will directly affect petrol, diesel, kerosene and LPG. This will in turn stroke inflation, putting more pressure on the pockets of the citizens. Immediate effect. In reaction to the expected price hike, the Sensex ended 348 points lower and the rupee registered the biggest single-day fall against the dollar in 4.5 months. It now remains to be seen how the incumbent government plans to deal with the grave scenario. We could very well be paying exorbitant rates for fuel in the coming days if the government doesn't act immediately. A News9 report.
Well, the Iraq crisis will no doubt affect all of us one way or the other. But what's happening in the country? The terror being spread in Iraq has been making international headlines. But how did it start? Here's a comprehensive report on the situation in the Middle Eastern country.
This is a kind of terror unleashed in Iraq. This video, which was released by insurgents ISIS, sums up the situation in Iraq. The country is lying face down with its hands tied back helplessly as terror sweeps through its streets. Soldiers are seen being taunted and laughed at by the militants with commands like "Shan't ISIS." The images you see now on your screens are allegedly the mass execution of Iraqi soldiers who dared fight ISIS or the Islamic State of Al-Sham. ISIS put up these pictures on their Twitter account before it was blocked, with the caption that the soldiers were taken to their deaths. What is the Iraq crisis? No doubt, you've seen the kind of terror that ISIS is creating on the streets, but here's a comprehensive view of the Iraq crisis. ISIS was an offshoot of Al-Qaeda based in Iraq. It was soon disowned by the Al-Qaeda due to its extreme ways. Yes, ISIS's ways were too extreme even for Al-Qaeda. ISIS is the Islamic State of Al-Sham. It is led by Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who is currently the #1 public enemy and has a $10 million bounty on his head. The main aim of ISIS is to create an extremist Islamic State in the Middle East, and they have terrorized Syria, Lebanon and other countries before Iraq. The reason they grabbed headlines was courtesy their claim of killing 1,700 soldiers and mass executions. Now, if you're wondering why the ISIS has gained such a foothold in Iraq, point your finger at the US. After America withdrew its forces from Iraq, the Iraqi army has been a weak force unable to protect its people. And now, the US is still hesitating to step in when the country needs it most, with Obama trying to take a shallow stand on the issue. ISIS is now closing in on Iraq capital Baghdad after taking control of Mosul, the second largest city in the country. There you have it. The claws of terror are slowly taking over Iraq and the people are watching helplessly. Thousands have now volunteered to fight the insurgency and join the army, but with ISIS conducting mass executions, hope is dark. A News9 report.
Yes.